we are doing
the
female coerced monogamy in burying beetles. So in this study, it is hypothesized that female interference in males emitting pheromones to attract additional females decreases the amount of time the males emit a pheromone. So this is relevant because burying beetles participate in biparental care. So that means that both of them are a part of the parenting process. And so they both look for these wonderful carcasses of small vertebrates, and that's where they're going to lay their eggs, and that's where their little munchkins will eat the vertebrates, and that's their food source. And they also help raise the offspring, so they're both sufficient parents, and that means that so the dad can raise the little munchkins and the larvae, and then the moms can do that as well. And then, now this is where the issue happens. This is where the drama starts because there's sexual conflict because the males, it's better for them to have more females because they can mate with a lot of ladies, and the females can only get pregnant and mate it's more limited. So the males, what they do, they emit these pheromones that attract more ladies when they have a bigger carcass. So if you have a really big carcass, then he's going to be emitting these pheromones, and what this does, it decreases the fitness of the females, but it increases the fitness of the males. And so the males benefit from being in a polygynous relationship, and the females face a disadvantage when their partners do, and the mean amount of little surviving offspring decreases when there's other females on that beetle. And so the females have these wonderful strategies that include undercutting the males, shoving them off of their perches that they're doing this pheromone emissions on. And they also, so the people in the study are hey, does this actually affect the males emitting the pheromones? And so they decided to test that. And it's all for now. And then
You want me to hold it?
Yeah.
Okay. Hey.
Okay, now we'll be talking about their experiments and how they set it up. What they did first was how to capture the beetles. And what they did was they baited them with pieces of pig's lung in pitfall traps. And what they got from that total was they got 35 pairs of females and males. They were maintained in ambient photo period and temperature conditions, and the duration was about 3 months. 2 months, sorry. June 5th to July 7th, 1993, which was a long time ago if you... Okay, they studied 2 treatment groups, which was one, females were tethered. That means they were immobile, so they weren't able to move around that much. And then the second treatment group was untethered, so females were able to move around and roam around the carcass. What was being measured was their mating frequency, so how much of the female pheromones.
Don't laugh, I'm trying to show the slides too.
How much of the male's pheromones were able to attract females, and the total amount of time each male spent emitting the pheromones, and the number and kind of female interference behaviors during the 30-minute period observation. What they did was to determine how long males were able to emit the pheromones, where they looked at how the males were positioned, and they usually saw that males that were emitting pheromones were in a headstand, so their heads were down and their abdomens were up, which indicated that they were emitting pheromones, and that's how they determined how many of those were emitting pheromones and how long. And then, hold on. They saw striking evidence for chemical attraction of females by males. only when they were in the headstand position. All statistical analysis were carried out using a non-parametric test procedures, which this person can tell you more about.
This person. We don't have the member of our group who's doing our results, so I feel weird vlogging. So yeah, you hold it. So we don't have our member of the group that's supposed to present our results, and we don't have those slides currently. So we're just skipping straight to the not the introduction, the discussion. So what they found was, even with female interference, there wasn't any direct evidence that the number of females detecting the carcass decreased. I feel weird having this gap in here. It's hard to collect my thoughts. And so with these females that were like undercutting the males and mounting them and trying to, decrease their behavior with pheromone producing, they didn't find any evidence that. I just repeated that, guys. I'm sorry. I'm nervous for this one. Okay. And although they do assume that, although it is likely that with the decrease, because they're decreasing the time that the males spend signaling, and with this decrease, they can assume that the numbers of beetles attracted will also decrease. What this study, in the discussion, they talk a lot about different factors that they didn't really include in the study. For example, they didn't include different carcass sizes, and so typically on small carcass sizes, males actually don't produce pheromones, because with small carcasses, there's less resources and less territory for the males to have the opportunity to mate with multiple females, so they don't produce as much pheromones because there is no need. So they mentioned that with larger carcasses, the pheromone emitting behavior will increase, but they did not really look at the difference between sizes and such. They also included, they didn't include male competition in their study, which they found to be a very important factor. So when the males emit this pheromone, it not only attracts females, it attracts other rival males. And with this, the competitive males will fight for the carcass. Dominant males will obviously have the carcass and be able to mate with more females, while subordinate males will attempt to mate with females when they come and visit the carcass. And this competition also happens interspecies, so other species of beetles, I don't know what I was saying just now, other species of beetles will also try to take the carcass, and when the males produce pheromones, that attracts other species as well. So this very high rate of competition was not acknowledged. They acknowledged it at the end, but when doing the study, it was not looked into. And they also state clearly in the discussion that it could be argued that our pitfall trapping study does not accurately estimate the increased risk experienced by males signaling on carcass. And so they're basically saying that they need to do another study and to go forward with another study that acknowledges and explores these factors. Anyways, bye.